Straight ahead on 12 News, a White House visit. Brooklyn Park's mayor's in Washington, D.C. to highlight efforts to reduce youth violence. Plus, school upheaval, a big change that could signal the end for integration districts. But first, a building boom ready to intensify in Brooklyn Park.
We expect very high-quality jobs and high-quality buildings.
12 News starts right now. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Alexandra Renslow.
And I'm Mike Johnson. A big change is in the works for a large piece of Brooklyn Park property. The city's planning commission gave preliminary approval to a proposal for a business park on more than 200 acres of farmland near highways 169 and 610. It's a proposal that would mean a lot of construction and potentially a lot of job creation. It's a big piece of farmland known for the past several years as the home of the Twin Cities corn maze, but there will be changes coming to the property along Highway 169 and 109th Avenue.
Office, warehouse, light manufacturing type uses.
Brooklyn Park's Planning Commission recommended zoning changes that would pave the way for a light industrial business park.
This property is 227 acres.
Marty Harstad's family has owned the property for 25 years. He says land for light industrial use is getting harder to find.
What happens is the companies have to go further and further out in order to find available land for this particular type of use. But the further out they get, the less employment base they have to draw off of.
Preliminary concept plans call for putting up 17 buildings. It's not known, though, which companies would move in.
Medical technology is, it can run the whole spectrum.
But Harstad and the city hopes it will attract companies moving to Brooklyn Park and be a magnet for good jobs.
There could be 3,000 to 4,000 people could be working on that particular. It could be more. You never quite know. We don't have a crystal ball that shows exactly what will go there, but we expect very high-quality jobs and high-quality buildings.
For Brooklyn Park, it's an important development area just off the 610 corridor and right along Highway 169.
It's our next area that is able to be developed. We just need to extend some sanitary sewer lines to the site, which would be done sometime later this summer, and development would take place over several years, but it's kind of the next emerging area for development.
This is the same site FedEx wanted to build on last year, but the city council said no because there would be too much traffic and not enough good jobs. Harstad says the latest proposal is already getting attention.
We've had a lot of interest from a lot of different companies.
And Harstad says if the city council approves the project, construction could begin this summer.
An urgent medical device recall is underway involving Covidien and its operations in Plymouth. The company is recalling about 1,200 blood clot removal devices because of a labeling error. The devices were made at the company's plant in Plymouth. The FDA hasn't disclosed any cases of patient harm. The kind of devices made in Plymouth treat a condition known as deep vein thrombosis, which can be fatal if a blood clot travels to the lungs. Covidien was acquired last month by Metrolink in a nearly $50 billion deal. The Robbinsdale School District is acquiring a new school.
The board overseeing the Fair School campuses in Minneapolis and in Crystal voted to transfer ownership to local districts. Reporter Shannon Slatton explains what the change means.
The Fair School's Crystal campus on Adair Avenue North has been a magnet school, concentrating on arts and equity for the past 2 decades. 11 school districts feed into this program, which is designed to bring more racial integration.
It's a little nostalgia, for sure.
But 20 years brought change and growing diversity at suburban schools. This prompted several discussions on changing the management of the Fair program.
I just think that that's all going to work out. And I do hope our kids stay with us, the kids here at Fair, stay with us and become part of the Robbinsdale family.
Thursday night at a sparsely attended meeting, the governing board voted to stop operating the schools and transfer ownership to the districts where the buildings are located.
It's been pretty much a foregone conclusion that they were going to do this.
The vote did not come as a surprise to parents like Jim Ramlett, who has a 7th grade student at Fair. While the plan is for the schools to operate as is for the next few years, Ramlett is still concerned his son will be able to graduate from Fair.
What happens when he's done with 11th grade? Does Minneapolis say, well, we're changing everything, and now after 11th grade he might have to go find another high school to go to?
Robbinsdale will now operate the school in Crystal, but it will remain open for enrollment to students in the 11 districts.
We have had a history in the visual and drama arts and music for decades, since early 70s. I think FAIR is going to find a very, very nice spot here with us.
The West Metro Education Program calls the change a soft landing. Plans are to lay off teachers and then rehire them at their respective districts. Operations, at least for the next 5 years in Crystal, are expected to remain the same. Back to you, Mike and Alex.
All right, thanks, Shannon. A local lawmaker says too many people are driving illegally after their car is seized for driving drunk. Senator Ron Latz is proposing returning the car if the owner agrees to add an ignition interlock device, which requires drivers to submit a breath test before the vehicle will start. As it is now, Latz says when drivers lose their car for a DWI, some will buy another and continue to drive illegally.
They won't insure it. They won't have a valid license, but they're going to drive because they need to drive, because they're going to decide that it's worth the risk of getting caught driving illegally so they can keep their job.
Latz calls it a public safety issue and says the ignition interlock devices work.
TCF Bank employees heading to their new Plymouth work site will soon have bus service from downtown Minneapolis. The Plymouth Council voted to approve additional Metrolink bus routes to serve reverse commuters. TCF polled the 1,600 employees moving to the Plymouth location and found that more than 250 of them would take public transit if offered. The city says it would cost about $330,000 to support the new routes.
Brooklyn Park was recognized at the White House today for its efforts on youth crime, and in particular, its work with young men of color. National statistics show African American and Hispanic men are 6 times more likely to be murdered than their white peers. Reporter Sonia Goins shows us what Brooklyn Park is doing.
Do not step on anything. If you step on something, your team loses 5 seconds.
Just having opportunities, positive opportunities for them to grow and learn and experience and being around positive, caring adults helps them deter from being involved in negative activities.
Brooklyn Park was put in the national spotlight for its youth violence initiative at Zanewood Recreation Center.
So we have a STEM program, which is a science and has a literacy component, after-school program for African-American young men and young ladies.
Anthony Bates is a teen specialist at Zanewood.
We have a young men's group called Boys to Men. That's a program for young men, African-American men, where they're able to have camaraderie amongst themselves.
He says it's all about keeping young people engaged and off the streets.
It's about leadership. It's about problem solving. It's about interacting, communicating, building self-esteem with one another.
The Youth Violence Prevention Initiative doesn't just stay at Zanewood. It's a partnership with police and other organizations.
Really what it is to engage these kids when it's not a 911 call. So getting them into Zanewood, getting them with a trusted adult, getting them with someone that is truly interested in their activities.
Now, juvenile crime is down for the city of Brooklyn Park, except for this area along Zane Avenue, where crimes among youth rose about 6%. But police say those numbers are now up because they include a larger area of the city in those statistics.
In 2010, when Zanewood first opened, we found dramatic reductions in crime just within that specific area.
Today, Mayor Lundy was in Washington talking with other mayors about what's working.
It was awesome. I mean, you get to come behind the scenes and kind of be part of something that's a national effort and represent the city of Brooklyn Park.
Lundy says while the city is seeing some success, there is still a lot more work to be done.
Some of this stuff has been building for decades. Some of these challenges and issues facing young African-American males in Brooklyn Park, it's not going to be something that can be undone with a one-year program.
In Brooklyn Park, Sonia Goins, 12 News.
Mayor Lundy will be back in town on Friday. He will update the City Council on his Washington trip on February 23rd. Coming up, we are off to Brooklyn Center to meet this week's Standout students.
Then later in sports, we'll venture out on the ice with Terry Tuma for his weekly ice fishing tip.
But first, temperatures warm up slightly on Friday the 13th, then another scary cold front moves in. We'll be right back.
It can be hard to put yourself out there, take a risk, and see what happens.
That's true for all of us. But this week's Standout student, a Brooklyn Center senior, well, she doesn't shy away from challenges. In a class that focuses on solo singing,
Yeah, sure.
It says a lot about James C. Yang that she picked a classical song that she's never sung before on a day when a camera is staring in her face.
Mother, mother, never believe.
This 17-year-old is not afraid to put herself out there, take on a challenge, and feel a little discomfort.
A lot of kids get frustrated, and when they get frustrated, they get stuck. And for James C., that's not the case. Frustration tends to, in my experience, has spurred her on.
In choir since 7th grade, James C. was once shy, but music and performing arts helped her come out of her shell.
Transitioning from my middle school and high school year, I've kind of became more courageous and just challenged myself more.
Taking some risks has paid off for this near straight-A senior. Twice she's been selected for the Tri-Metro Honors Choir, and James C. recently emceed and performed among traditional dance at the school's Asian Heritage Family Night.
Always a smile on her face, loves the work, loves to get in here and tackle things that are difficult.
The way James C. sees challenges, for instance, tackling a complex song, is as an opportunity.
Think of it as more like, since I don't really know that song that well, that's one that I want to work on more.
And with that mindset,
Mother, mother, never believe.
There's always room to grow and get better.
My first love to thee I owe.
Choir director Josh Countryman knows those qualities will serve this student well outside the walls of this high school.
She's smart, she's driven, she's gonna do just fine.
James C. hopes to attend St. Olaf College in the fall, and she's considering education or international studies. And speaking of standout students, coming up, we will showcase some of the best local high school artwork around.
But first in sports, Wayzata pulls an upset in the section girls hockey playoffs. John Jacobson has the story coming up next. It's always interesting. You never know what's going to happen in playoff hockey.
No, you don't. You know, a little bit of an upset in the second semifinal last night. Maple Grove's girls hockey team lost its one regular season game. That was to Minnetonka, the top seed in Section 6AA. The Crimson were hoping for a rematch with the Skippers, but first they'd have to take care of Wayzata, a team that eliminated them from the playoffs a year ago. Coach Becky Wacker's team looking to get back to the section final for a second straight year. First period, the Trojans' Natalie Heising will pull the puck back on her stick, puts a top corner for a nice goal there. Wayzata scores 11 minutes into the game. Final half minute of the period, Heising skating hard into the circle, follows up her own shot and scores on the rebound. The Trojans are shocking the Crimson, leading 2-0 after one. Second period, a face-off win for the Trojans. Lindsay Zeck's shot deflects off a defenseman's stick and in. Wayzata is up 3-0. Sarah Stelter was stellar between the pipes for Wayzata, making a great stop here on Maple Grove's Peyton Olson. Down 4-0, the Crimson break the shutout late in the second period. Taylor Wente's shot from the point just under the crossbar, and it's 4-1. But the Crimson get no closer in the third. Maddie Wolzman adds an empty netter late as the Trojans move into the section final with a 5-1 win.
My mindset going into this game, and actually our team's mindset, was just go out there and give it to Maple Grove. You know, we didn't have our best game last time we played them, and we really wanted to make up for that and just show them what we got.
In the first semifinal, the Hopkins girls were hoping to spring an upset as they faced Minnetonka. Skippers don't take long to get going, though. Emma Bigham with a wraparound try. Her second shot is in, and Minnetonka's on the board 17 seconds into the game. Later in the first period, the pass to Presley Norby. She'll rifle it in. Minnetonka takes a 3-0 lead through one. And it doesn't get any better for Hopkins in the second period. Norby on the rush, gets taken down, but Kippen Keller skates in, puts the loose puck away. That's the Skippers' 5th goal of the night. Hopkins gets on the board in the third period. Grace Wazal will take a pass from Hope Doctor, scores the first of her 2 goals, but it's the Skippers winning handily 7-3. So the championship game is set. Minnetonka and Wayzata meet for the 4th time this season. The Skippers have won 2 of 3 so far. The puck drops for the 6AA title Friday night at 7:30 at Parade Ice Garden. Making the best use of bobbers during the winter fishing season is the subject of this week's Channel 12 ice fishing tip. Here's Terry Tuma.
The common approach to catching crappies and bluegills in the wintertime through the ice is using a bobber system. And is that good? It is good if you're fishing maybe a second hole, if you got a real tough bite going. But even if you have a tough bite going, what I do is I use a spring bobber system with a split shot and a colored hook and or a bead, and I just drop it down into the hole. And what this does now is, as we know, crappies will come in at different depths. And instead of, constantly changing that depth of that bobber, or maybe you're going to be missing a fish because you just don't know exactly where those fish are going to be coming in at, and they are going to change in depth. There's no question about it. But what this affords with that split shot and the spring bobber, so now you can put it at the depth where these crappies are at by your Vexilar, and then all of a sudden if a crappie comes up 2 feet above that, then you can just automatically reel the line in, and that's going to be, you're going to be in that position of where that crappie is in the water column. Very easy to really keep adjusting your live bait with your hook. Instead of using a bobber system, using a spring bobber system and your Vexilar. Now you got tools that are going to offer that bait right in the water column where those crappies are at. Give it a try. I think it's going to be a little bit different that we normally don't use, but it's going to increase your success. Be sure to tune in next week for another tip right here.
Thanks, Terry, and that's it for sports.
Thanks, John. We'll be right back.
Calling all budding graphic art designers, Brooklyn Park has a challenge for you. Design the next Tater Days button. The contest is open to all students ages 6 to 18 who either live or go to school in Brooklyn Park. The theme for the 2015 Tater Days Festival is the same as the city's new motto, Unique, United, Undiscovered. Entries are due by the end of the month, and for details, visit the city's website. Well, finally, if you haven't been there yet, now is a great time to visit the Fine Arts Center at North Hennepin Community College.
That's right. Some of the best student art from 8 high schools around the Northwest Metro is on display now at the college. You can see different types of drawings, paintings, and photo art. There are also ceramic art pieces and even an ornately designed guitar.
There's always a lot of spirit, and there's a lot of honesty in their work, which is always appreciated. There's also a reflection of the current styles and trends in America. So we find this to be like a little temperature gauge or a barometer of what's happening in our area.
You can see the high school art exhibit through February 26th, and a preview of more to come maybe from those young artists.
Wow, a lot of imagination at work there.
That's right. That does it for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Stay with us. Community Corner is up next, and we'll see you back here tomorrow beginning at 4.